Hello, America, and welcome to Tim TV, also known as Happy Hour with Maestro Tim. Thank you so much for being with me today. Very special guest. I'm really honored to be able to present to you and to say hello to a good friend, a soloist who was ironically featured on our second to last program before the pandemic. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Bella Hristova. Welcome, Bella. Good to see you.
Hi, thank you. So happy to be here.
Well, thank you for saying yes. This is kind of neat with technology. We're here in Iowa, and where are you?
I'm at home in Philadelphia.
Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I've heard of it. Have you always been there?
I have been here since 2003, with only 2 years away for grad school.
Great. Well, as you know, this is Happy Hour, so I've already said offline to you that I'm drinking gin and tonics just before in honor of summer. What have you brought to this booze sling?
I made myself a bee sting, which is like a bee's knees, but it's made with tequila. So it's tequila, lemon juice, and maple syrup.
Well, cheers to you. Click.
Cheers, Tim.
Click. Well, I'm glad that you're here. So tell me, so many musicians are out of work right now. Whether you're a soloist, whether you're an orchestral musician, studio musician, what have you, if you're not playing, you're not earning. What does your life look like right now?
Actually, I have probably the most routine that I've ever had in my life because I've never been home for this long. So I practice every morning. We have all our meals at home. I usually read for a good part of the day. I work out in the afternoons. We have dinner. There's, of course, other things that I have more of on some weeks. I've all caught up on my doctor's appointments. But other than that, it's really the days are blending in one into the other.
Just a couple weeks back, I had Zool Bailey on, and he said much of the same way. It was like he's actually had time to catch up instead of this hectic schedule because you were performing almost every week, hardly being at home. So is it kind of nice to do a little bit of, maintenance here and actually some slow work again?
I have loved that. With travel and the performing that I do, I've never actually practiced for this many days in a row without at least having one day off for a travel day. So it's something I'm trying to get to 100. I'm doing
Right.
one of these streak things, but it's been really interesting to practice every single day. I'm on day 86 today.
Wow, good for you. Yeah, that's right.
Thanks. I have a practice journal, so I write down, how my hands feel, how the violin feels, what I played that day. And I'm not practicing for hours and hours every single day. Some days I'll just do my scales and maybe some solo Bach.
Great.
Other days I do longer, but it's been really nice to, get back to basics and really play for myself.
Right. Before we go on, I'm going to go into our chat room to see who's logged on and say who's saying hello. Randy Reynolds, I can always count on you. Gin Gimlet, huh? Well, cheers. Here's to you. Kathy Varney, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming back. These past few weeks, last week we were on, but we had a technical issue that didn't allow us to actually broadcast. So we've been kind of dark for the past 3 weeks. So I want to thank you so much for joining us, and keep your comments coming, and we'll make sure we bring you in on the conversation. So your husband, it's hard enough being a musician, a soloist, a conductor, a musician. Your husband is a composer. On the best of times, that's even harder. So how has this affected his routine?
I think so. Well, actually, so he teaches composition at Curtis. So he was able to finish out the school year online, and it's about to restart online. And I think out of any obviously out of any instrument, but out of any music profession, composition lessons are actually very suited for being online because
Right.
you can have your monitors, you can see the screen, talk to the student. There's no real playing involved.
Well, what about your husband? Is he like really techie? Because some guys, some women, some composers are really, they're into the gear. They can do all sorts of things, and others are old school with just paper and pencil. What's his style?
Well, he loves tech, but he composes at the piano. I'm in our music room right now, so he composes here with a pencil and paper.
Okay, well now you've done it. Let's see your apartment here.
Okay.
Let's see how clean you really keep your apartment.
It's a little messy right now.
Well,
So
good.
this is the music room. Here's the piano. Over there is recording equipment because I've been recording down here. And here I have my exercise bike.
Yeah, that makes
and we have scores.
Yep, that makes a great way to to hang your clothing on. I never use an exercise bike and it's noticeable. Yeah. So actually offline you pointed out a particular score you have in the background, right off your shoulder.
I will. So this here is probably a first edition of the Glazunov Concerto score, and it's been signed to the violinist Adolf Busch. And it was given to me actually when I was in Iowa. That was the weekend that Uncle Peter passed away.
Right.
And that score was given to me by Uncle Peter in the fall.
Oh wow.
So David's grandfather was Rudolf Serkin. David's great grandfather was the violinist Adolf Busch.
Wow.
And so Uncle Peter was David's uncle. And I remember that before our second concert, I found out the news, it was heartbreaking.
Right.
Even if it was expected. So this score is sort of it's amazing to touch.
So it's funny you say Uncle Peter because I'm a recovering pianist and Peter Serkin is like one of those, those godlike people and Uncle Pete.
Well, no, I agree with you on that. Yeah.
What was he like? Tell me about him because I've only known of him through his career and through his recordings. I never got to hear him live, never let alone meet him. Tell me about him.
Well, I had a chance to actually play with him with my teacher, Jamie Laredo, and we played and others, Sharon Robinson and Cindy Phelps, and we did the Brahms piano quintet. And it was magical. He's such an inspiring musician. But visiting him this last year or so, just talking to him about music and about all the composers he worked with, and also about, he joked before our visits that he would let the half and half, he would leave the half and half out so that it spoils nice and good before, we put it in our coffee. There are those two sides to him, the jokester and the very serious, inspiring person that I feel so lucky to have gotten to know him.
Good to know. I guess the lesson to take away is Peter Serkin liked lumpy coffee. Who knew? Who knew?
No, he liked guests to have lumpy coffee.
Let's go back to the chat room and see what's going on here. Caitlin, how are you, love? How's the new job panning out for you? I'm really, really glad that things are. Did you get through the storm okay? I hope everything was just fine with you. So, anyway, keep your comments coming. It's wonderful to have you in here with our broadcast here. So now that you have all this time, you said you just did a recital not too long ago. I'm assuming that was
recorded it this week. Yeah, it will be broadcast in a week on Monday.
Okay, how do we find it?
It will be broadcast on Facebook on the Violin channel and Salon de Virtuosi, which is a New York organization, wonderful organization to find young talent, and they present them in concerts and they give out grants. I won one of them while I was still at Curtis, so now as an alumni, they invited me to present a recital.
Was it all solo, or did you have a pianist with you?
Well, it was solo, and then David also plays guitar.
Oh, neat.
And so he played the piano part to the Chrysler's Preludium and Allegro.
Great.
And also, my dad was a Russian composer, so we arranged a song of his for violin and guitar.
Do you find that there's extra pressure when it's just a solo recital, no accompaniment whatsoever? I mean, what's the difference between just playing your instrument by yourself in recital versus, let's say, chamber music versus orchestral playing?
Well,
or orchestral soloing?
I love playing for an accompanied violin. I love the repertoire, and I love feeling like the violin is a complete instrument. People think of the violin as a melodic instrument and one that most of the time needs something below it to complete it. My favorite instrument is the piano.
Of course.
Love the piano.
That goes without saying. It's the king of the instruments. And yes, you can send letters and I will answer them. Yes, okay.
But I think because of that, I'm really drawn to an accompanied violin music because you feel like you can really have you don't come close to being a pianist, but you feel like you can you play all the lines. So Unaccompanied recitals are scary and very tiring, but I enjoy them.
Right. So is this recital of yours like without intermission, or how long is it? I mean,
It's not that long. It's probably about 45 minutes.
right. Right.
So I did the Bach E major partita. I did 2 Bulgarian dances. I did a piece by a New Zealand composer, John Psathas. Did first movement of Prokofiev's solo violin sonata, and then the Chrysler and my dad's song.
So when you do a program like this, how much of it is there a formula? How much of it is material you've never prepared before, and how much is music you've prepared throughout your career?
Well, it depends on how much time I have. So I had lots of time now. The Bach I had been practicing. I was supposed to play it a number of times this year. So I just thought I might as well record it. The John Psathas piece is new to me, as are the 2, oops, that's our doorbell, but David will get it. The 2 Bulgarian dances are also new. So it's a mix.
Quick, you have perfect pitch. What were those pitches?
It's an E, a G, and a P.
I hate that!
I'm playing the piano.
Yeah, you're talking to a guy at best has relative pitch. It is such a freak show when people can just do that.
Well, I've gotten to know this doorbell.
So offline, we were also talking about you're working on a concerto. Frankly, I'm embarrassed I don't know, and it's by a pretty mainstream composer. Tell me about it.
The Elgar Violin Concerto.
Right.
I heard that piece while I was a student at IU with Jamie Laredo, or maybe I had heard it before, but I really heard it for real then. And it was a recording of young Yehudi Menuhin, I think 16 or 17-year-old, recording it with Elgar conducting.
Wow.
And just my breath was taken away by that recording. And it was the last piece that I ended up studying with Jamie at the end of my studies there. So I've never performed it, but I love it. And I practice it from time to time. It's really difficult. And it's also really long. It's 50 minutes. So whenever it's programmed, it's difficult to program.
Is that kind of the reason why you think it hasn't really gotten the attention it was due?
I don't know. I think people prefer the cello concerto.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the cello concerto is great. I also happen to love the violin concerto. It's full of feeling. It's very romantic. I think it's a great work.
So what's next on your docket? What's keeping you busy?
Well, David just came down to say hello.
Oh, David! Well, David, hello. Nice to meet you. Say hello to all of our adoring fans, all 120 of them.
Oh, that's a lot.
So,
David.
Sorry. No, go ahead.
David, it was a delight to have Bella here. So tell us what's going on in your life, because when we were talking behind your back, saying that it's probably even more difficult for a composer in this time now that there's not much music going on.
Right. Yeah, I mean it's hard to make art, I think, for a lot of people right now. But composers in another way, we're kind of used to being solitary.
Right.
And yeah, I mean all of the things we do in terms of teaching and working with other people, we can still kind of do some of that. But yeah, I'm all of my deadlines have been pushed off, but actually I don't mind that so much.
Wonderful.
As Bella says, everything inside the house is great.
Right.
So,
wonderful.
You just make do and try to find something positive every day.
So the University of Iowa is just 20 minutes down the road from here, and I know the difficulties they are and the contortions they're going through trying to social distance and doing ensemble training and all that sort of thing. So what's going on at Curtis? How are they negotiating this problem?
Well, it's online only, so
okay.
People are trying to be creative. So, like I said, for composers, I mean, I've been teaching composers online for right now. I have a student in China, a student in England. I mean, we've been kind of doing this, but it's very different. When you're teaching, like when Bella's teaching or something, or an instrumentalist is teaching, you need to hear it. It needs to sound good.
Right.
Composers, like, just plunk something out. Yeah, it's
Well,
fine.
you look
Sounds
more
great,
than you
kid.
listen.
Right. Are you finding with England there's a language barrier?
Yeah, every time she says color or neighbor or favor, I can't.
What is this extra U just doing there? It's like, learn to spell.
Yeah. Uh, it's all good. And the other thing about this virus and the quarantine is that we're finding more creative ways of making music.
Right.
We none of us want to do this forever. That's for sure.
Sure.
And nothing beats in-person music, and the magic of hearing some music live is awesome. But we're finding creative ways around it now, and maybe that'll inform things when we're out of this.
I think inevitably it will. So Bella, there's so much going to be up in the air for the next 6-12 months. I personally believe after that there's going to be more certainty. How far ahead is your life organized and regimented in terms of your concertizing?
Until the end of next year.
Okay.
And the following season. So not this season that's about to start, but the following season is starting to line up. But things are very much up in the air.
Of course.
But you just asked just before what was next, and actually I do have a premiere scheduled, the world premiere. I have a long-term commissioning project going on, commissioning unaccompanied works for solo violin, but inspired by the works of Bach and Isai. So you sort of see 3 centuries of inspiration and development of technique writing for violin. So
if only you knew a composer.
Well,
yeah.
I'm actually a civilian in this.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah,
incredible composer and violist, Nokotula Engwenyama. She's a great colleague of mine, a friend. She went to Curtis, and she's writing me a piece. So she was able to fit this into her schedule, and we're working out the logistics of the premiere right now. It'll probably look like a YouTube premiere for now, but that's been something that actually I think there's more space to do that sort of thing now.
Right.
Because we're in quarantine, and there's a time for these kind of scarier and longer term projects that now we have all this time.
Well, hold on. I'm going to check out our chat space and see what's going on there. See if anybody else has come in. Jessica Mello. Oh my God! Congratulations on your wedding. Are you on honeymoon? Are you back in Michigan? So let me know. Oh, Randy Reynolds. Are you making fun of my Canadianism? Did I actually say A? I'm sure you'll let me know. So you guys are in Philly. You weren't hit as hard as New York, but I'm sure it was pretty bad. So let's go back in time to March, April. What was life like in the big city?
We came home from Hawaii on March 3rd, I think. We played our violin concerto there. That's the poster from that last concert before COVID.
Okay, time out here. This was really sweet. So offline, you were really sort of self-conscious, saying, as you're sitting down and putting the camera. He says, I just don't want to picture myself in the background. I think that's just too I don't know, arrogant or something. And now, there it is. That's just yeah. It's exactly. So
we were in Hawaii it's a wonderful orchestra there, and Joanne Folletta, who's one of our big heroes and friends, and we love Joanne, and she was doing the violin concerto I wrote for Bella, and then we came back, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah,
it was
right.
Close the door, and so Bella goes to the farmers market.
Only now, though.
Saturdays.
For a few months, we got everything delivered.
We put on our hazmat suits, all that stuff. We're very careful about it, just because, why not be around fully when this thing resolves to get back to all the things that are important to us. But, we were in Korea, actually.
We were in Korea just before I was in Iowa.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And,
we did not bring it back.
We didn't, but actually it was, it had just appeared in Korea.
Seoul.
The day before we left for the United States. And I remember thinking then, I hope they contain this. And I had a bet with a friend that I lost so badly that they would. And, it's very unfortunate. But again, we're just trying to find positive things and creative things. And Bella's recording a lot actually now.
Well, so great. You asked if he likes tech. David got a really geeky mic and he records into Logic, and he's got his like
geeky.
soundboard and the cables and the.
I made my.
Ed, my tech crew back here, my tech crew of one is like he's living your dream here right now. It's like, oh, who's the cat? Yeah.
What's it called?
It's a Blumline ribbon mic.
Blumline
two ribbon stereo mic. But I got the most geeky thing I've ever got, which is a pair of glasses that have headphones built into them.
Oh wow!
So that when I'm on Zoom and stuff, I don't have to wear headphones.
Ed, you've got to get me some. Christmas is coming. That's right.
I have ever purchased, and that's saying something.
Made by.
You see my pencil collection. So.
That is awesome. Well, I'm glad you mentioned something about your concerto program and project, because now that you mention it, I remember backstage, Bella, you and I were talking about that. So tell me about the performances you've done, how it's been received, and how it was conceived and how it came about.
Yeah, it was a consortium by 8 different orchestras. So it was premiered in 2016, and the second or third performance was done by your good friend David Amato, and with the Delaware Symphony, and they were one of the original commissioners. The piece
Tell me he stomped all over it. Tell me that he just slopped through the orchestral part. He's my best friend, ladies and gentlemen. He's a fabulous conductor, but I still like to trash him. Anyhow,
so smart and funny.
I know.
Smart. And then he always puts food on Facebook that we want to eat.
Food and cocktails.
Yeah.
Now you know the connection. Now you know the connection. That's right. That's it. So anyway, on with the story of the concerto.
So yeah, it was meant to sort of celebrate our marriage. It was written around the time we got married, but David didn't make it too autobiographical. I'll let him maybe. You done?
Oh, cat hair.
It's okay. It's not showing up. It's fine.
Thanks. Yeah, no, the prompt was our marriage, and it was put together by Alan Jordan, and then we were in Vermont and Kansas City, Rogue Valley, a lot of different orchestras, and it was great. I didn't want to make
Michael Stern picked that up. Michael Stern in Kansas City, great.
Michael did one, and Mark Russell Smith did it out in Quad City.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do like a Strauss deal with it and make it like about us. I thought that'd be a little narcissistic. So I wanted to just make it about marriage and even more about partnership and compassion and empathy, things that we can really use a lot of these days. We can really use that. And,
which movement was about the fighting?
It begins with a bit of a struggle.
Actually, when my mother heard it does open with a big crash, sort of two people coming together. And she said she was traumatized. She was a little bit dramatic.
Well, it begins with the two kind of souls or two individuals separated. And then they come together through dances. And then the second movement is a ceremony, and it's like a wedding processional. And for that, I included music by Bella's father. And I didn't tell her.
That's neat. Yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
I didn't tell her about it until Valentine's Day. I gave her a thumb drive, because what else do you give your wife on Valentine's Day except a thumb drive? And she opened it, and I said, look at the second movement. And she realized this thing she had been practicing, these 13 measures, were from her dad's, like he's a witness to the wedding. And then the last movement's just a kind of romp. It's called Festival. It's the community coming around two people who have committed their lives to each other. And it's a Bulgarian dance, and it's called a crooked dance, because you walk home crooked after a really great party, after a great festival. So it's been really fun. And so Joanne, that was what we did in Hawaii.
Yeah, it's being performed outside of the 8 commissioners now.
That's fabulous. That's a rare accomplishment, to get past that initial birthing process. So David, in your own composing then, how much of it relies on an autobiographical moment in your life, or how much of there is a story to your music, whether it's intended to be programmatic or not? I mean, how much of your music is designed to be experiential in the way you've composed it?
There's always a story, and for me, composing is a kind of storytelling. I wish sometimes I was a composer who would write like String Quartet No. 3 in D major,
Right.
But it's not always like programmatic. In other words, it's not always like following a narrative of a specific.
Right, I get it. Yep.
Yeah, but there's always some motivation, be it political or artistic or something. There's always something that the piece is about, quote
Right.
unquote. So yeah, I think it's a kind of storytelling. I mean, as a conductor, one is telling stories.
Of
I would
course.
imagine all the time.
Of course, most people think my stories are BS. Let me go back to our chat room and see what's going on there. Anybody here? Randy Reynolds, what did you have to say? Love these programs. Thank you, Randy. Appreciate that. Denny Redmond, again agreeing with me that the piano is the king of instruments. And Jan agrees. Wow, I am so in trouble with my guests. Yeah, I mean, Caitlin, she was just remarking. Caitlin, this person who worked on the staff, Bella, when you were here, and she's since moved on to another position, but she was just saying how she remembered you were talking about heading to Hawaii right after playing with us in January.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you were on, when you're working, it's hard to... On one hand, what we do when it's called play. You play the violin, I play the piano. It's called play, but it really is work. And and sometimes the layperson doesn't understand that. So when you go to a place like Hawaii to perform, when you're working, do you ever have time just to take advantage of that flight there? To have a few days on and on, to take advantage of the time? Or is your schedule so tight that you play, you go, you come back, try and catch some sleep and live another day?
Since David said it was such a great question, we wanted to spend a couple of days, but there was a deadline that we had to get home for.
Right.
A composing deadline. But I think we made the best of the time there. We had some of the best sushi we've had outside of Japan. And we went to this sushi place on our way to the airport because the flight home is a night flight.
That's true, we did.
It's almost like we had an extra day after the concert.
Actually, some of the people there actually came to our concert.
From the sushi place.
They're like,
fabulous.
Here. You're like here every
You're
night.
Here every night.
Well, we're playing a concert. And they came, which was so nice.
Oh, that's fabulous.
It's true, if you get a day off, you can do something, but you also just kind of want to rest.
Actually, we did have a day off. We had a day off in Hawaii because of however they had their schedule. There was
What did we do? Could we go hiking?
I think you had to work.
Oh, that's right. I sat by the pool.
But we sat by the pool. They make great Mai Tais.
They do, yeah.
And we had some nice meals. We had been there once before. When I played with the orchestra, I played barber then, and we again had a day at the very end. So we did a big hike in a crater. Diamond Head Crater.
Right.
It's
nice when you can do that, but it's not always.
I mean, it's a great privilege to do what we all do.
Sure.
It's true. When you go places, you don't really get to go sightseeing. It's not in any way a vacation. You're
right.
working. But it's also a great privilege that you get to go and have sushi, or you get to go, you get a day off and you can kind of see things. So it's all balance.
It is a privilege what we do, and I think that's also why we miss it so much right now. I think we can certainly take things for granted, and now that the world is turned on its head, we're coming up to the half hour here. So I want to ask you this question. What has the pandemic taught you? I mean, what lessons have you learned now that your schedules have been completely disrupted, your livelihoods have been disrupted, your social schedules have been disrupted? I always think that through every disaster, there's also a benefit. So what are your sort of observations of how your life has changed, perhaps for the better because of the pandemic?
Can we do the rabbinical thing of answering your question with the question?
Absolutely, yes.
So how has it affected you? Because we haven't actually gotten to ask you anything yet. And I'm very curious about how conductors are responding to this time.
It's made me slightly more patient. It's made me, it's actually re-energized me a bit more. At times it's easy to get cynical about our profession. And now that it's gone, I realize how precious it is. I also realize that time is a gift, and while some people are saying, "Oh my goodness, I need to be doing something," not doing anything is actually if you take it as a gift to concentrate on how you can make your life better, it's actually the best gift of all. So yeah, we've been quiet for the last how many months, but I've seen it as an amazing gift.
I love that you use that word, because that's how I've been thinking of this time too. It's exactly a gift. And well, it's not a gift, but we can make it into that. And I think it's so positive to hear that that's what you've done. And I also think of it as a gift. Just, we'll never get this chance again in our lives.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's hope.
Yeah,
well,
let's hope. Yeah, it's funny because early on, I remember it was in April or May, and it was a lovely day, and my next door neighbor and I went out to a park for lunch, and we're sitting down, socially distanced, and we're sitting there, and I saw a father with his young son having lunch together, and I remember saying to my next door neighbor, I said, I hope people will take this opportunity, because I think we do need to slow down just a little bit, and this is kind of a nice way of. Well, it's forced upon us, but I think if we take it in the right spirit, I think it's actually a plus.
Yeah, say, oh, there's not enough time to do this, there's not enough time to do that. Well, now there is the time. For me, it's taught me to be in the present. Just so many of our thoughts are either worrying about what happened in the past or worrying about what's going to happen in the future.
Right.
But it's showing us that we have no control over the future, and we don't know what's going to happen. It's such a ever-changing situation. Like, I don't know what's going to happen 2 months from now, so there's no point in worrying about what might happen or discussing what's going to happen or what's not going to happen. So I've really been taking it one day at a time, and it's been a great lesson to stay in the present and focus what I can do positively this day.
Before I let you go, I'm going to check our chat room to see if there's any questions they have of you here.
My wife, very wise.
Marlene, this is your first time enjoying? You're here for the first time. Well, welcome. I'm delighted that you're here. Make sure you tune in again because we have lots more of these. Let's see. Caitlin says she's been slightly more patient. But anyway, listen, I hope one of these days, Bella, to have you come over here again to play. David, do you go by David or Dave?
Most people call me
David.
Okay. No, it's okay. I hope one of these days to meet you in person, to play some of your music, and more importantly, to have a dinner party with you.
That sounds really fun. Already, I want to hang out with you. It's true.
I want to thank you both for being my guests. Bella, you were awesome. Because I got to tell you, when I pick up the phone to ask people to be my guests for happy hour, I'm surprised that they even remember who I am. So I am just delighted that you came. And I got to tell you, even though it was our second to last concert of our season, it really was the highlight of my season. It was the highlight of many of my seasons.
It was for me too, and I was delighted to hear from you to ask.
Oh, good, because you and I worked on Sibelius twice, so we've worked together before, and it's not going to be the last time. So with that, Ed, I'm going to have you play us out with the last movement of the Sibelius Violin Concerto featuring our guest, and I want to thank you guys for being here. And I'm empty, so I need a refill. Oh. So cheers! Cheers! I want to talk to you as we play out.
Cheers.